In 1919, World War I ends, leaving America as a final standing world power. After World War I, America entered the Roaring Twenties. This was filled with a bunch of new laws, such as prohibition, political changes, such as the Palmer Raids, flappers, and the 19th Amendment, such as women's suffrage, as well as advancements in entertainment and technology. Then, starting off before the 1920s, in 1919, the temperance movement fought to make the sale and consumption of alcohol illegal. They blamed alcohol on their family and social issues, as well as most and some political issues. Eventually, they won with the passing of the 18th Amendment. This led to speakeasies and eventually the 21st Amendment, which repealed prohibition. In 1920, the Palmer Raids occurred, which were a series of raids conducted by the Department of Justice to capture and arrest suspected radical leftists, especially anarchists, and deport them from the United States. Also in 1920, the Great Steel Strike ends, which was one of the many unions that occurred. Also in 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed, giving women the right to vote. This was a huge step towards gaining equal rights for women. Also, lastly, in 1920, Harding was elected as president. Chad Bragg! Another large event that occurred in the 1920s was the Harlem Renaissance, which led to a widespread awareness and appreciation of African American culture, with a large focus on jazz, food, as well as art. Yippee! In 1921, the Emergency Quota Act was passed. This limited immigration into the United States, and was also used as an important turning point in American immigration policy. Another event which occurred in 1920 was the Sacco Vanzetti trial. This was when two immigrants were wrongly accused and executed based on a murder that they did not commit. It showed American anti-immigration feelings. Also in 1921, the World Series was broadcasted on the radio for the first time. There were many technological advancements in radio, television, and film during the Roaring Twenties. In 1922, tariffs rose. This boosted the domestic economy, yet hurt foreign economies. In 1924, the Ford Motor Company became huge. People began to buy cars that were more affordable based on the use of Ford's assembly line, which was able to manufacture cars at a more cheap and affordable price. In 1925, The Great Gatsby was published, showing the life of the 20s, especially the flapper era, in which women became more rebellious. In this way, women wore more clothes that were more revealing, as well as stayed out more to party, drink, and basically show their rebellious lifestyle. Also in 1925, the Scopes trial occurred, in which a teacher attempted to teach his students about evolution, which was banned from most schools. In the end, he was convicted, and it was one of the first trials to be broadcasted on the radio. In 1928, Hoover was elected on the eve of the Great Depression. He was eventually seen as one of the worst presidents in the United States because he did not help the United States get out or recover from the Great Depression. In 1929, the stock market crashed on Black Friday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 25%. It lost $30 billion in market value. That's the equivalent of $396 billion today.
In 1930, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act was implemented. It was an act that increased tariffs on agricultural goods, such as corn. It exacerbated the Great Depression, and it also led to the bank panic in 1931. During the bank panic of 1931, 305 banks closed by September, and another 500 closed in the next month. In 1933, FDR passed his New Deal. It was a series of programs, public work projects, financial reforms, and regulations enacted in the United States in response to the Great Depression. In 1935, the Social Security Act was passed. This established a system of old age benefits for workers, unemployment insurance, and it gave aid to handicapped people and mothers. In 1937, minimum wage was given to women. This was another step towards gaining more equal rights for women. However, there is still an issue regarding equal pay between men and women today. In 1939, World War II began when Germany invaded Poland. This eventually helped bring America back to their economic standpoint.